Hey there, it's Lara here with Witchy Wednesday for the week of February 14th to 21st, 2018. Happy Valentine's Day. And if you're not into Valentine's Day, then maybe just, give yourself a little love, right? A little self-care. Take yourself out for lunch or have a nice hot bath or something like that. Treat yourself, right? We don't do that often enough, really. So, and there's a lot of things happening this week. Yesterday was Mardi Gras or Fat Tuesday or Pancake Tuesday, Shrove Tuesday, whatever you want to call it, however you mark it, if you do. And also today is also Ash Wednesday, if that's something that you consider significant for you. And then we have the Lunar New Year coming up as well at the end of the week, which is also known as Chinese New Year. This is the year of the dog, and so you can look that up if you're interested. But the Lunar New Year is celebrated in different cultures, and it's the first new moon after the winter solstice. So it can mark sort of more of the new year than we tend to think about it on the solar calendar, like the whole January 1st thing, right? So there can be more of a sense of the new happening at this time of year. And really in the northern hemisphere, we're more than halfway through winter. Woohoo! And so we're on the upswing now. And even though it doesn't really feel like it around here, it's still cold and snowy and everybody's been sick and that kind of thing. We know that nature is going to do what she always does, and spring will show up sooner than later, hopefully. So, as I've said before to you, I sort of go more by the zodiac, and in the zodiac, the new year starts at the beginning of Aries, and so that's in April, and that's it's more around that springtime that it feels more like a new year to me. Okay, so before I launch into the reading here, I just want to tell you a couple things. One is, if you're interested in getting in on a contest that I'm launching later today for my email subscribers, then you can head over to my website from the link below here and you can subscribe. It's just like your first name and email, and it's free. And I do not send out a lot of emails at all. But I do send out special offers and contests and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, then after you watch the video, head over there and subscribe. And I'll be sending out the contest, the email about the contest later on today. All right. And the other thing is, of course, if you're interested in getting a personal reading, then you can get the details from the link below here too, and find out what it is that I offer. And as things go, move forward, I will switch up and expand on those services as well in the future. But I do chart readings, and I do tarot readings, and I do readings that involve a combination of both of those things. So if you're interested in any of that, check it out. And if you have any questions, then please reach out to me. Okay, so we are heading into a solar eclipse. So a couple weeks ago, we had our lunar eclipse in Leo, and we are having tomorrow our solar eclipse in Aquarius. And so I've talked about, the eclipse energies in the past couple of videos. And so if you're interested in getting more information even than I'm giving you here, you can go back to those videos and check them out. I'm going to try to focus mostly on the solar eclipse here today, and so that the video is not too long. But the solar eclipse is happening in the sign of Aquarius at around 27 degrees specifically in the sign of Aquarius. And if you remember, and if you watched last week or the week before, I talked about how a solar eclipse is when the moon and the sun are beside each other in the sky. They're conjunct each other. A lunar eclipse is when the sun and the moon are opposite each other in the sky. So this is a partial solar eclipse, meaning that the sun won't be fully blocked out, it'll be partially blocked out. And with a solar eclipses are always new moons, right? And at a new moon, it's a good time for initiating new things, for launching new things, for starting something new. And that doesn't necessarily have to be something like material or concrete. The newness can be in our attitudes, in our behaviors, in our practices, those kinds of things. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be, starting a new job, although it might be, or some new relationship, although it might be. But it could just be, sort of like a shift in your attitude or the way you see things, that kind of thing. And of course, it depends, like how you feel this depends on where it's hitting your personal natal chart. We are, especially if you're sensitive to this kind of thing, you probably feel the collective energies. And so there is an element of this playing out on a collective level, right? We can see this in, I've talked in the past couple videos, I think it was 2 videos back specifically about this whole need for balance between the masculine and the feminine, and how the pendulum has really swung too far towards the masculine, and we are seeing evidence of this all over the place, right? And so this is playing out on a collective level. And but then individually, it will play out more for us depending on where the eclipse falls specifically in your birth chart. And so that depends on the date of birth, the time of birth, the place of birth. And so when I do a reading for you, I would ask you for those details. And if you don't have your time of birth, because some people don't, if you can get as close as possible, that's good. And if you can't, you can still do a reading. It's just not quite as accurate. So for me, it's falling, this eclipse, it's falling in my 6th house. I have Aquarius in my 6th house in my natal chart. And so this is about, daily routines. It's about health and wellness and routines, and revolving around that. It's about how we are of service. So it's about those areas basically. And so for me, that's specifically where this eclipse is hitting my chart, and I will feel the energies probably significantly in that area of life. And then eclipses, they always involve this sort of axis point, right? So the eclipse is falling on the Aquarius Leo axis, right? So last couple weeks ago it was in Leo, the lunar eclipse again, and this one's in Aquarius. And so we look to balance those energies. And so as a collective, this is about the balance between really the group, the collective, because it's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about that, right? It's about the tribe, it's about the group, it's about the bigger picture. It's about the mind, the higher mind kind of thing. And Leo is more about the heart, right? And it's about our personal creative spark, and it's about really our inner child, that kind of thing. And so, this is about balancing those things, our needs versus the collective needs, is a simple way to put it, right? And so, again, depending on your personal chart, and I'll show you the chart for today. This is what the chart looks like for this eclipse, not for today, for tomorrow, for the eclipse. And you can see where the sun and the moon are up here, and that's where the eclipse is happening in the sky in Aquarius. And so you can also, I don't know if you noticed on the chart, but the planet Mercury is also heavily involved in this eclipse. Mercury is right beside the sun and the moon in the sky during the time of this eclipse. And Mercury is about our thoughts, our intellect, our communication, our taking in of information, our sort of curiosity. And it's about those communications on a more mundane level, like daily conversations and that kind of thing. Mercury is the planet that rules the sign of Gemini, right? Geminis love to talk and they love to take in information and spread information, but they aren't necessarily discerning about the information. That's more Virgo's role. Mercury also rules Virgo. So there's a connection here in this eclipse because Aquarius also has to do with intellect and thinking, but it's more the higher mind. It's ruled by the planet Uranus. And in ancient times, it was ruled by Saturn, without trying to get too, complicated and down the rabbit hole here with you. But, and so there's a big emphasis on our thoughts here, on our intellect, on the higher mind and the lower mind coming together, right? Those flashes of insight, meeting up with our sort of day-to-day thinking and communication. And so for me, because eclipses are about change in some way, solar eclipses specifically are about, bringing something new in, and about allowing us or encouraging us or sometimes forcing us to see things that we weren't seeing before, or to see things in new ways. I've said before, it's like the light of the sun goes out, just temporarily, and comes back on. And so it can sort of shock us or awaken us out of our state of autopilot. And so, because Mercury is so heavily involved in this eclipse, I see this as the changes that are likely to happen, maybe more in the realm of how we think about things, how we approach things, intellectually, and with our thought processes, with our beliefs, that kind of thing, and maybe how we communicate with others, and about the information that we share, really. So it may be, and again, this, it may depend, like wherever this falls in your chart. Like, say, for example, if like me, this falls in the 6th house of your chart, well, you may have sort of sudden insights about different ways to approach your daily routines, or your health routines, or you may be thinking about those things differently, or events may occur that make you see things differently or force you to do things in a different way. And so, that's sort of how I view this eclipse. There's also some good conversations, some positive, sort of easy flowing conversations happening between the moon and the planet Uranus and also between Mercury, right? And Uranus. So it's a conversation that astrologers call a sextile, which is really about opportunity. So we may have some positive opportunities show up for us in relation to these eclipse matters, these Aquarian matters, and where they fall in our chart. So we may have some opportunities to positively shift our perspective or the way we do things. What else do I want to say about that? There is another conversation happening between the moon and the planet Jupiter, which is in Scorpio right now, and it's a square. So squares are conversations of like tension. And so this just could indicate that maybe we are not seeing things clearly. Maybe we are it's going to be sort of an exaggerated mood almost. Either like we're way overly optimistic about something or way pessimistic about something. And we need to kind of bring that into center somehow, right? And so I encourage you to be mindful of a tendency to have over exaggerated emotions at this time. And eclipses can sort of bring on those exaggerated emotions as it is, right? Okay, I'm just going to take a quick look at my notes to see if there's anything else that I want to talk to you about before I show you the card. I don't think so. I think I'm going to bring the card into the conversation now. And the card that came up for us is the card of the Hierophant or the Hierophant, depending on how you pronounce it, from the Rider-Waite Tarot. And when this card, I pulled it out for us, shuffled the deck, cut the deck, and then I flipped the card over. And that's the card that I used for us for the week. And so at first I was like, what does this have to do with the eclipse? And then it sort of dawned on me that the Hierophant is about our traditions, and it's about our, kind of about belonging to the tribe. And it's about belonging to something, sort of bigger than ourselves. And so this is really Aquarian in nature. And so again, I think it just speaks to that need to find our tribe, but also be true to ourselves, right? When we do that. I think this is telling us that we want to be mindful of how we're conforming. And that maybe these traditions and these these organizations and groups and things, we need to make sure that we're aligning ourselves with what feels right to us, and that maybe this card, the Hierophant here, he is associated with Chiron in astrology. And Chiron is known as the wounded healer. It's an asteroid, actually not a planet. And so it's kind of this notion of, we are strongest in the broken places. I think of, the Leonard Cohen quote about there's a crack in everything and that's where the light gets in, right? This card sort of reminds me of that. It's about taking our wounds and using those to help us get stronger and help us help others, right? To share our vulnerabilities and things with the greater group to help them. This is also the card of sort of the shaman, right? And so you may ask yourself, is it time for me to step up and sort of be the shaman, be the shaman of my own life, and lead by example to others as well, and help others on their journey? Or am I at a place where I need to seek out somebody else who can help me with that? I'm never a fan of sort of giving your power over to somebody else. I'm a big fan of searching out the teachers and the guides and the lessons that resonate with you. But I'm also, I always encourage people, and even in the work that I do with people, take what works for you, leave the rest, right? So it's really about being your own authority, or your own shaman, or whatever term you choose to use. I'm just going to take one more quick look here at the notes if there's anything I want to finish off with. Oh, I sort of see this as a blending of the the ritual and the tradition kind of thing, and the material with like the mystical and the unseen, right? You think even in a traditional religious setting, we see, like, if you've ever been to a Catholic mass, for example, we see all of these symbols and these rituals happen, and there is a connection. There's also a connection to something greater than ourselves, right? And so really we can practice putting our, using our sort of everyday practices and rituals, and using those to connect with something bigger. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Also, I think this is about a sort of a blending of the old and the new. We have to, again, it's all about the balance. We have to get to a place of harmony, right? I think about this idea of blending sort of, ancient traditions and ancient knowledge, ancient mysticism, with modern science, right? It's really a time for science and spirituality to come together. And that is happening. We are just in our sort of everyday world, not necessarily seeing that so much, right? It's not so much, you have to seek that information out. And there's a guy named Greg Braden who I have followed for almost 2 decades now, and I've really sort of gotten back into his work recently. And if you're interested in looking him up, maybe I'll leave the link below here as well, and you can go check out his website. But he's on YouTube. You can find videos of him on YouTube. But he is a scientist who also studies spirituality, and he knows a lot about the blending of that, and that's always been key for me, right? Practical magic. I always say I sort of have my foot in both worlds, and I believe wholeheartedly that we are coming to a point where we cannot exclude one or the other in our reality. We need both of those things. There needs to be a blending of the more scientific with the spiritual. I don't think those things exist in a vacuum, personally. I think they're far more closely connected than we are aware of, or that we are led to believe. Okay, so I'm going to get off my soapbox now, and remind you that, if you're interested in getting a personal reading of your own birth chart, or a tarot reading, or a combination reading, then head over to my website and check that out. And I wish you well during this eclipse season. It's been difficult for a lot of people, me included. I've been really feeling this. And I know a lot of you have too. So, let me know how things are playing out for you. I love it when people give me feedback. Make a comment below here on the YouTube video, or on Facebook, or reach out to me via email or private message, whatever works for you. But I really like it when people share sort of on a more public forum, because then other people can see that and it helps them feel not alone, right? So it's good to be vulnerable, and that helps you connect with others, and allows you to see that other people are experiencing similar things. So once again, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching this, liking the video, subscribing to my channel, sharing if you feel that's appropriate, and if it's something that other people you know might want to check out, then I really appreciate it. Okay? Take care. All the best. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.